the best program is the one that they'll do. You could have the best program written down, Olympic level stuff or something that's worked in the past, but if they're not going to be able to do it, it's not a good program. Even a bad program that they'll do is better than the best program you've ever written for somebody.
You have clients that are executive level. Even you've had a client that was an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And then you also have a client that's a stay-at-home mom.
Yep.
Like, if you were going to program for someone like that, what would be the major differences?
Those two situations, it comes down to stress. How chaotic is the day? Some jobs you have that are very structured. You know exactly when you get up. You know exactly when you go to sleep. Or maybe it's not. Maybe some days are easy and some days are chaotic.
Right.
It's very different from telling the stay-at-home mom to stay nice and organized and get your 10,000 steps in and drink your water. Not having to think that you have to do an hour workout or a 90-minute workout. Is if you have that day where it's your mom, you got to do that morning with your kids, then you can drop them off. You might have a little bit of time, then you got to pick them up and do it. Try and do like little mini workouts throughout the day, and just going for a walk can count as a workout. Yeah.
How are you able to motivate someone that is numbers oriented?
It's as simple as,
are you trying to lose weight, but you have no idea where to start? Today, I got one of my coaches here with me. We are going to be distilling our 15 years of training ourselves, but also our clients. And hopefully by the end of an hour or so, you have an idea where to start. Because if you're like any of us, we first don't know where to begin, and then we're flooded with information. And what we end up finding ourselves doing is we're just paralyzed. So if you're in that position right now, you're not alone. Even the trainers that you might be training with has experienced that. But for the most part, what we want to try to do is give you an idea what the first steps might look like. And I'm excited to have my homie here, Keith. He's been training with us for quite a while. And I wanted to bring you on because you've been successful with so many of the clients that you've had. And I think every client that you've had are also different personalities.
Yes, very different.
So, dude, thanks for coming. I'm
Thanks
excited.
for having me.
This is a long drive for you because you're on the other location.
Yeah, other side.
So this is exciting. So before we get started, I want to start out I think this very first question kind of lines it up really well because we want to think of the program right away, but we don't quite there has to be some type of protocol. So a client comes up to you and then they're like, hey, I want to lose 30, 40, 50 pounds. And oftentimes I don't directly go into let's program. Mm-hmm. Like, what are some of the things that you're asking when a person comes in and is like, I want to lose 30, 40, 50 pounds?
Yeah. I actually like to start with just their past.
Okay.
So just ask them, what has anything ever worked before? Have you ever tried anything? And just kind of get an idea of what they've tried, what they might prefer to do, or what they kind of had some bad experiences with.
Yeah.
So you can kind of create that new experience for them.
Okay.
So a lot of people will, it's almost funny that everyone almost has the same goals. Everyone wants to lose weight, lose fat, add muscle. It's like everyone has the same goals, but everyone got to where they are in a very different journey. So going back and kind of asking them their story and then history. Kind of using their story to then start to think about how you would program them.
I like that. And guys, as you're listening to this, I know we're talking kind of a trainer to trainer conversation, but you can actually ask these same questions to yourself. Mm-hmm. Where am I starting? What's my history? And then understanding that. And where do I want to go? Like some of the biggest things that I ask them is like, what does your life look like?
Yeah.
How am I going to program an Olympic level type of program if you're a parent, you have 3 kids, you're married, you have a career that requires 60 to 80 hours out of your time? It's really important to take that into consideration when you are programming either for yourself or for a client, right? So what are some of the other things aside from just their work history that you want to know when you're taking on someone that really wants to lose this weight?
Yeah, that would be the next thing is what does their current lifestyle look like? I think the best thing I ever heard was just the best program is the one that they'll do.
Okay.
So, you could have the best program written down, Olympic level stuff or something that's worked in the past, but if they're not going to be able to do it, it's not a good program.
Yeah.
So even a bad program, that they'll do is better than the best program you've ever written for somebody. So
That's
finding
so
out,
good.
what their job is like, what their home situation is like, how they eat, how they sleep, just asking all those questions through conversation with them when you first meet them, just to figure out an idea of where to start with them. And you can do the same for yourself. It's just what's going on. Why? Well, first, if you're 30, 40 pounds overweight, it's how did I get here? And then look at those things that are happening in your life currently. So you can kind of trace those steps back and figure out where to start.
This is so good. So I want to go to the occupation side, just one layer deeper, because you have one that is you have clients that are extremely executive level. Even you've had a client that was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then you also have a client that's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, like, if you were going to program for someone like that, what would be the major differences in those scenarios? You have an entrepreneur and then you have someone that's like at home all the time. What are some of the things that are different?
Yeah, I think in those two situations, it comes down to stress levels, or just like how chaotic is the day. And just from personal experience of working different jobs, is some jobs you have that are very structured. You know exactly when you get up, you know exactly when you go to sleep. Other jobs you might have is just it's chaos all day, or maybe it's not. Maybe some days are easy and some days are chaotic.
Right.
So in order to kind of line these things up that they should be doing on a daily basis, it's very different from telling the stay-at-home mom to stay nice and organized and get your 10,000 steps in and drink your water, or someone who wakes up and they're just in a whirlwind all day long and they can't even think about their next meal because they have 1,000 things to do. Yeah. So I think just how chaotic the job is carries over to just how chaotic the lifestyle is. Yeah. And then we can kind of figure out this person can do a lot more at once than this person just because of their job situation.
This is so good.
Yeah.
So really quick, I want to touch up on this because the 10 years that I had moms, and I've also had executives and entrepreneurs. I typically find the one with higher executive job or they're on an entrepreneur, I think they do better in the morning, like structuring it in the morning. Yeah. And here's the reason why. If you're an executive, the moment that 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock shifts hits, there's so many problems and you can't control what problem you get. Yeah. Right.
No idea.
You have no idea. So trying to get an entrepreneur to work out at night has never really been successful for me. I mean, it has, we've done it in the past, but I've noticed there are going to be days where they don't show up, which is like, for me as a practitioner, I was like, I can't build a habit like that, So if you're an executive listening to this, I highly recommend trying to create a lifestyle where you're getting the workout in first before you get all the problems.
Absolutely.
So, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. I think there's always going to be problems, and if you can get that workout in before those, you got to start putting out those fires. Yeah. That's definitely the way to do it. Yeah. And I know that, even if you're not a morning person, I think if you're an executive, you are already in a routine of kind of waking up and diving right into something. Yeah. So if you can wake up, get that workout in, and then dive into all the problems that you're eventually going to have, because once something big comes up, it's very easy to put off the workout.
That's so good. Yeah, because we've all done it. Yeah. I've done it. That's why I work out primarily in the morning. It's because of that same reason. Now, if I have the opportunity to do another one at night, that's more of a treat for me instead of just like, I have to do it, right?
And I think that goes even if you're not an executive. Yeah. Is, one of the things I always took out of, there's that book, The One Thing. Yeah. And they talk about how your willpower is like a cell phone battery. You wake up, it's on 100%. By the end of the night, it's at 20%. It's going into the red. It's like, if you can wake up, and especially if you're taking on something new, at this point, you and me is, if we miss the morning workout, we're getting the workout in. Yeah. Because it's ingrained in us. Yeah. But if you're trying to take on something new, you want to get it when that willpower is the highest. So getting that right in the morning. And then if that becomes a habit and you love your workout in the morning, that's fine. But the hardest things should get done first.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I think it also applies to parents, you know, because they have problems too, right? So you guys don't necessarily have to be an executive to be functioning or to do your best workout in the morning. It's just for me, it's been
running a family is like running a business.
It's been
lots of problems are going to come, so you might as well get it done before those problems come in.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Now on the mother end, I always recommend blending fitness into their life, right? Yeah. So it's very interesting because sometimes you might not have the opportunity to work out in the morning because you're getting everything ready, right? Unless you're waking up like at 3 or 4 in the morning, which can be really tough. Yeah. So it's different. Sometimes it's midday for them, and that's typically where I recommend. It's like, tell me your schedule. When are you taking your kids? Like, when are you free the most? And then that's where I structure a lot of their workouts, and it's just been more successful that way for the parents for me. And it doesn't have to be a mom; it could also be a dad doing that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I got that's new for me right now too. Yeah. So I just that idea also of not having to think that you have to do an hour workout or a 90-minute workout is if you have that kind of. If you have that day where it's your mom, you got to do that morning with your kids, then you could drop them off. You might have a little bit of time, then you got to pick them up and do it. Try and do like little mini workouts throughout the day, and just going for a walk can count as a workout.
It does,
and just interweaving it into your day.
Yeah. So one thing my wife does is he'll take him to the park and she'll find a bench and she'll just do step ups.
Yeah.
Right. It's amazing what that little action can do over the course of 90 days.
Yeah.
You know, we think the workout for a person needs to be grand. Like we have to do a mile run, we have to do squats, we have to do push-ups. But sometimes your only opportunity to be able to burn calories is just doing step-ups while your kid is playing on the swing.
Yeah.
Right? I see so many missed opportunities because I'll go in there and I'll do pull-ups and I'll run with him. And here's what most parents are doing. They're just kind of texting, right? And I'm like, and I don't know what they're doing on the phone, but I can guess it's somewhere around social media, right? Where they can actually be doing something. Now, if you don't want to do step-ups, go play with your kids. I guarantee you're going to burn calories. You know, it might be difficult to keep up with them, but it'll start out just like, okay, I'm going to lock in 10 minutes. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go chase them, play, and do what I can. So as a parent, I think learning how to blend fitness in is a key component in their weight loss journey. Now, if you have those sessions with your trainer or you're going into, those are extra, right? I mean, that's like a staple. But then if you can blend in fitness as a parent, that's how you continue your weight loss journey for sure.
And you can structure, routines throughout the day where you're blending it in and they don't even know it. Every night we go for a walk, but I'm trying to get my steps in. That's why we're going for a walk every night.
Yeah.
So it's, you could blend it in.
Okay. So that's so good. So we started asking kind of when we ask them or when they tell you that they wanted to lose weight, what's their stress level? What's their occupation?
Yeah.
You missing anything else? Are you asking injuries or anything like that? Or
food can be a challenging thing.
Yeah.
Of just kind of everyone's relationship with food is different, but I think getting a general idea of, how they eat or how they look at food, because there's obviously there's extremes. Some people are not eating at all and then they end up overeating. And again, that's because of the stress. That's because of the chaos. All of a sudden, so many things are coming in and out. You look up at the clock and it's, 2 p.m. You haven't even eaten breakfast yet. Yeah. And you didn't mean to do it. Fasting is one thing, but if you accidentally are skipping meals because you're so busy and stressed, it's another thing.
Yeah.
And then there's people that obviously overeat or just, their choices are bad. So just finding out their relationship with food first.
Yeah.
Not trying to change too much at once either, but just getting a general idea of what that looks like, I think is super important in the beginning.
Yeah, it's huge. Just being aware.
Mm-hmm.
And what's scary sometimes is they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. They're
just unconsciously eating whatever it is because they just never been exposed to it. Right. And there's some that actually do, and it's just the head side. Like, how do I do this?
And I think what I said before, just learning about their past of what's worked is like, I think almost every person that's in that position where they they don't know. Like you ask them, what does a day of eating look like? And they
Yeah.
don't know. They can always at least go back and they have
Right.
some story where they're like, oh, well, when I was in college, I used to play this sport and I used to eat, 3 meals a day and they were perfect. Like they always have a
Yeah.
reference of when they did used to eat well.
Right.
And we can kind of tap back into that because
Yes.
and then if somebody is, I've never eaten well in my entire life, then it's okay. We got to just, get some groundwork in
Yeah.
here, some basic habits. But I feel like someone always has I used to be in shape
Mm.
and I used to eat like this. And
Yeah.
I used to feel so good when I did. And now I don't know what I do now, but at least I
Yeah.
remember what it was like to eat well.
I love that.
Yeah.
I call that painting the picture backwards.
Yes.
And initially, when you bring on another a person coming in, you just ask them, okay, cool. This is your first time losing 30 pounds? Were you in good shape before? Most of the time, just like you said,
Mhm.
I used to be in good shape. But oftentimes they haven't done enough reflection on how they were in that shape in the first place. So I ask them, I'm like, hey, like how many times were you working out? Oh, I was working out 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, did you have a job then? I was like, no, I didn't.
Yeah. It's
Right. It's like, what was your nutrition like? Oh, it was bad. It's like, oh yeah. So even those indications is giving enough ammo for what they kind of need to do.
Yeah.
To lose the weight.
Mhm.
And here's a really cool trick. Like I had a conversation with one of my clients and he said he didn't know how to lose weight. But I asked him a question. It was like, if I give you $1,000 to gain 30 more pounds, what would you need to do?
Yeah.
And he
That's
started,
easy.
yeah. And he was
Yeah.
like, well, I'm probably just going to sit on my couch and just eat more food. Right. I'm definitely not going to go work out. Right. I'm going to find the least amount of steps. I'm going to start drinking more beer, drinking more alcohol. He started listing all of these things out.
Just do the opposite.
Yeah. What's ironic is
Yeah.
we know how to gain weight
Yeah.
and then we think we don't know how. And I was like, okay, cool. What if you just did opposite of all of those things? Not be on the couch, not drink alcohol, go to the gym. And then he had this epiphany. He was like, wait, I do know how to lose weight.
I think everyone knows how. It's
Yeah.
just obviously easier said than done.
Yeah.
And it's just, you need just a little bit of help to kind of just get you out of where you currently are and just get on the right path. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
And then it's like everybody kind of has their own idea of what that path is. And if you can just think about what that path is going to be and then be very conscious of what's happening along the way, like that's all it really is.
All right.
That's what trainers do. We just help guide people along the path. But if you want to do it on your own, you just have to kind of stop and think a little bit more than just saying, I don't know how to lose weight.
And this is where it gets good. This is the timestamp here.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone does know how to lose weight. Here's what they don't know. They don't know who they are.
Right.
And we just had a recent conversation while we were grabbing coffee that there are 3 different types of people and clients, right? So let's talk about just the clients in general. 3 different types of clients is they're either path-oriented clients, they're either logical-oriented clients, or they're very emotional-oriented clients. And let me explain a little bit to you guys what that is. Path-oriented clients are people that want a path. They like programming. They like seeing something in 30, 60, 90 days. What's going to happen? What's the plan? Right? So if you're listening to this right now and you're that person, you're very path-oriented. I'm very path-oriented. Keith, you're very path-oriented, right? So that is, and guys, by the way, each one of these versions have its own strengths and weaknesses. Okay. And we'll go over kind of what those are. We'll have a conversation around that. The second version is someone that's emotional. They just want to feel good. Like you, I just want to feel less stressed. They could care less about the numbers. They can care less about the path. They want to go in and feel good. And a version of me is like that. Right. And then the other client is one that is so fixated on the numbers. And for those that are like fixated on the scale, oftentimes are going to be those people. They're fixated on macros. They just love numbers, right? They're very logical. Like, what are the numbers? What are the stats? Like, what are the studies? They're very logically oriented. The reason why most clients, they know what to do, but they don't do it is because they don't know themselves. And I think it's really important. Like, am I path oriented? Am I emotionally oriented? Am I logically oriented? I think that's the first question you have to ask if you're doing this yourself, because the way you're wired is also going to dictate how you create your own program. And that's why trainers are so valuable, because you've kind of navigated that with your clients without them even knowing it.
Yeah.
Right. So let's dive into some of the strengths real quick of what this is. What do you think some of the strengths are for someone that's very path oriented?
I think just the phrase of whatever doesn't get measured doesn't get managed.
Yeah.
I think that's important, because if there is no path, then you're just running around chicken with his head cut off and just trying to consume every style and weight loss and diet and just trying to do too much at once because you didn't create the path.
Yeah.
And you have a conversation with one person that's lost weight, and then you try and do what they do. You have a conversation with another person. You see something on Instagram. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And there's really no, at least, idea of a linear path for you to go on. And you're just trying to do too much at once.
And then the advantage of a path, there's time element to it, right? So now you get to actually see change, because change doesn't happen on instant unless it's Instagram or Reels. You see that, right, in like 17 seconds. But in reality, weight loss is longer. Yeah. Right?
And I think the negative already I could think about that is it's a long path.
Yeah.
And if you tell someone on day one the truth of how long, someone comes up to you and said, I want to lose 30, 40 pounds, it's, you find out their story. Yeah, it took me 5 years. I slowly put on 40 pounds. And it's like, okay, well, what if I told you on day one that it's going to take 5 years to lose it?
Yeah.
That's devastating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course it can be faster, but if you kind of see how long it might take, that could be very, very devastating for a person.
It is, yeah. Because, it's long because of the habits that they've created. Yeah. And breaking habits is very difficult, right? We can just be like, hey, you can just do all of my habits, but it's not sustainable. Yeah. And it's a recipe for disaster, right? So that's, I like how you do that, because it just kind of just like, okay, the realism starts to happen. And in the event that you actually get them to be lower, or it takes less.
There's another negative right there too, where if you have the path and it's something like a 90-day challenge, I think a lot of people know what happens with 90-day challenges. Yeah. You go all in, day 91 comes, you go right back to your old life.
Exactly.
I did it. I'm going to go celebrate for a weekend, and then I'll get back into it. And then that weekend turns into a week, and that turns into 2 weeks. And then, I did that challenge one time. It didn't work.
Yeah. And that's one of the disadvantages of the path.
The path, yeah.
Right. So when life happens, what happens to the entire path? There's no audible. That's just one thing. Life can happen. Like you can blow out your knee, right? You can tweak a back. You can have something happen with your job or your relationship, right? So there's a weakness to path oriented. I'm very path. So anytime I have massive injuries, I'm in this like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Everything just went wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is where the emotional the side of me started to happen. Wait, I just need to feel good.
Yep.
Right? So that's like, so let's move into the emotional side. What is the advantage of someone that is going in just to be like, okay, I just want to feel good every time? What is an advantage?
I think the advantage there is like, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's easy to start your first workout and leave feeling better than when you came in.
Yeah.
Because you feel accomplished and you're not worried about the numbers or the scale. It's just if I just want to feel better, and you start going, and then you're building that confidence and you're proud of yourself, it's easier to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest advantages, like people that are very emotionally inclined, they find what they like to do faster.
Yeah, very, very fast.
Like, oh, I like to Zumba.
Yeah.
Oh, I like to lift weights. Oh, I like to CrossFit, right? I like to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like they just find, and I think it's very sustainable for sure, right? It's just sustainable because they just go by the feel. They go by the flow. There is a disadvantage though.
Yeah.
The disadvantage is they will eventually plateau.
Yep.
Without the numbers, they're eventually going to hit a mark where you can get pretty fit from this level. But if you want to get to the next level of fitness, you want to start like getting to the professional numbers. Here's what I see. The emotional athletes get really, really strong, right? And what I typically, they start to manifest injuries. And because they're just going by feel, right? And they're feeling strong. I was like, show me your nutrition. And their nutrition is not going by feel, right? Or they are going by feel. They're just like, whatever feels, whatever is great.
Yeah, I can't go by feel when I eat.
Right? So now all this chaos is starting to happen. It's like you want to perform like a professional, but you don't eat like a professional. Right. You want to squat professional 1% numbers, but you don't eat like a professional, right? So now that's where one of the weaknesses are. And that's what I typically see with emotional athletes. And nothing wrong with it. Yeah. Like there's pros and cons. Understand where you are. And that's like one of my biggest concerns. It's like once that starts to manifest, it was like, okay, we got to see the path.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And especially if kind of a negative about the first one, if you're going off feel and it's emotion, what happens if you blow your knee out? And now that thing that made you feel good is gone, and now there's no plan B. And you're and then you really don't know what to do. Yeah. Because you didn't think about anything. You just were going off feel. Yeah. Because when you hurt yourself and you can't do what you've been doing, I mean, that doesn't feel great. Yeah. But there's no plan.
That's I'm glad you brought up that.
So that's another one there too.
Yeah. The blowout, the emotional sides. So really quick, if you want to fix that, is making sure that you do have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. Right? I think you blew out your pec. Yeah. Yeah. Right? And I'm very path oriented, but also emotionally oriented.
That was not on my path. I'll tell you that. I had to create a whole new plan.
Yeah. So, but then you had that plan B, plan C. Yeah. Right. And I think that's when you're in this weight loss journey, don't expect that you're not going to get injured. Yeah. Right. Especially if you want to look like an athlete. You show me a person that's really fit, I'll show you someone that's handled a lot of injuries. Oh yeah. And learned from a lot of them. Yeah. Right. People think that the fitter that you are, like the less injuries that you've had. And I disagree with that. Some of the best athletes had some massive injuries, but they were just able to learn from them at a high level, or they have someone looking out for them.
Yeah. Or it created something new that you didn't even know. Yeah. You got injured and then you started doing something completely different and you fall in love with that.
I love that. Okay.
So, that's another one there.
All right, so let's talk about my favorite. Yeah. My favorite type of client is the logical ones. Mm-hmm. And the logical ones typically are fixated on the scale. And they're, unfortunately for me, my first few years as a trainer, I didn't acknowledge the fact that they love numbers. So the way that what I coached them was like, don't worry about the scale, let's just go by feel, because that's how I trained. Or let's just go by the path. Don't need to not even worry about them. And what I found over the course of our relationship is we started to part ways, right? And I was wondering why. Like all of my other clients are doing really well without numbers, without a path. Why is this logical person? And then I start to think that there's something wrong with them. It only like took 5 or 6 years to understand that these people are actually extremely, extremely valuable in their own sense, because logical people can do some pretty cool things. Mm-hmm. And here's what I mean by that. Some of the most logical people that I know, typically, like one of my trainers, like the most ones that are fixated on numbers are also pretty successful in other areas of their life. Yeah. They know their margins in business. They know what their budgets are. They know what their accounts are, right? They're winning in other areas. So typically these clients are successful because they know the numbers and they exceed a lot of levels. So if you're a logical person, that's one of your major advantages, right? One of the disadvantages that I find is they're so numbers oriented, they forget how to feel, right? They could care less about the path. They just what's the numbers, right? And then when they see the numbers don't move, they just quit altogether.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like those 3 stages, and anyone that's had a pretty long journey of weight loss, it should be a sliding scale of those
Yeah.
3 stages. So
Yeah.
it just depends who you come in day one as.
Yeah.
Are you 1, 2, or 3 there? If you come in and you're obsessed with what the scale looks like, that's
Mhm.
okay. Eventually, if you move towards emotional, things are going to get better. If you come in and you're all about emotion, you might need to start worrying about the numbers eventually. And then when you start to worry about the numbers, then you realize, oh, I need a plan that involves these numbers.
Right.
So going back and forth and just, again, talk about knowing who you are. You know, when I first started, I might have been one type of person and you evolve into another.
Right.
So it's okay if you come in and you don't care about numbers. And it's okay if you come in and you're obsessed with numbers. It's
Exactly,
just
yeah.
knowing who you are is also knowing that can change very quickly.
I love it. Okay. So let's talk about the logic. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because over the course of the 10 years, and you've been training just as long as I have, it's amazing how many different personalities there are.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me a long time to really coach the logical person because I was never logical.
Mm.
What were some of, because you have some logical clients that are very fixated.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
you able to motivate someone that is numbers oriented?
It's as simple as showing them numbers and just being as detailed as you can on your end.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't know too much, they're not going to be able to come in and know, you know, how much their back squat has gone up.
Mhm.
They might just be focused on one number,
Yeah.
the scale.
Yes.
And of course, you know, that's what they look at. They step on that scale and it either goes up or it either goes down.
Yeah.
The other numbers that you can provide for them is you are moving in the right direction. The scale will
Right.
get there.
Mhm.
You look at what you're doing. You came in and this is how you started. This is where you ended. So just being as detailed, or I mean, I do that anyway, just because that I am
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't care. There's some people that do. But as long as you're providing that data for them to
Yeah.
see, and they start to see, oh, look at these numbers trending up.
Yes.
You know, you can be obsessed with one number, but as long as you're kind of giving them information that they're trending in the right direction,
Yeah.
that's kind of all they need.
100%. Because at the end of the day, they could care less about just that scale. They just want to feel progress.
Yeah.
So logic people are progress oriented. They want to see
Right.
trajectories and moving up. And I neglected to even notice that was even a personality. So one thing that I've learned was once I understood that this person was like, it's like my weight went up, my weight went down every day. You know, they texted me. That was their thing.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I love this person now because now I'm going to start. So in our sessions, we're like, okay, dude, we did 35 pounds on your back squat. Yesterday we did, or today we're doing 45. And then we just do this.
Yeah.
And then eventually their narrative starts to change. They're like, when are we going to do the squat again? I think I could do 100.
yeah.
I think I could do 105.
Yeah, and it just made me just think is no matter who you are, it just changes the experience that you give them. So if they care about the numbers, they're obsessed with that scale.
Yeah.
They walk in, you see them, it's, what'd you weigh this morning?
Right.
Oh, I lost a pound. All right, awesome.
Mhm.
They're emotional. They walk in, how do you feel today?
Yeah.
They love the plan. It's guess what we're doing today. It's just that experience that you give them based on what they want to see the most. And then if it changes, it changes. All of a sudden, the emotional person starts to care about numbers and the conversation goes from how do you feel today to guess what we're going to do this on back squat today because you're going up and up each week. So then they start to focus on the numbers.
Yeah.
So I told you earlier, it's like the personality that they have, your job as a coach is to like curate an experience for them.
Wow.
So if they care about numbers, you talk about numbers.
Yeah.
If they care about emotion, you talk about how they feel.
Yeah.
And if they care about the plan long term, you talk about the plan long term.
Yeah.
And then you just see what's starting to spark their interest, because I'm sure you've had people before that could care less about their back squat and all of a sudden they're like, I just did 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And you see it, you're like, uh-oh, they just started to care about their back squat.
Yeah.
I'm going to start talking about their numbers a little bit more and see if it sparks their interest.
And you just chase that path. I like, because you see that.
Yeah.
I see that with my clients. Like some clients, I'm like, you did 100 pounds. They're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, they're good.
Like, whatever. And then another client's like, oh my gosh, I did 100 pounds. And then they're like jumpy.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, this person likes to see numbers. So moving forward, I'm going to start adding more numbers into their plate.
Yeah.
What's their clean max? What's their bench press? What's their 5K time?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then starting, and they become obsessed. It becomes a game for them.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like, if you're a numbers and a scale person, what you may be missing is more numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get more numbers. Like, it's one of the things that we say a lot is like, once you master the scale, master the strength.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because now mastering the scale means like, okay, it's not moving anymore. Right? Or it's just not, or it just hasn't been moving at all. I think it's just something that a person should really start to have a narrative around, and just being able to be more prolific with their numbers, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, hey guys, we are finally accepting students in our Weight Loss Academy. In this program, we are teaching you the skill set, the mindset, the tool sets to be able to not only lose weight over the next 12 weeks, but keep it off for a lifetime. If you find yourself struggling to shed pounds, or you're regaining the weight after dieting, this academy is designed for you. Now, click on the show notes below so you can join our wait list, and you will be the first to know when our curriculum begins. Now, back to the show. Peace. All right. Second question, Keith. Now we tapped into who you are as a client. I think that's important to understand. Now let's talk about how to create a program.
Yeah.
How to curate a program, curate an experience for yourself so you can be successful in your weight loss journey. Where do we begin?
Yeah. So once you know kind of who you are at the moment, because remember we said it changes all the time, is you can start to curate that experience that a coach would for you. So if you care about those numbers, start to make some goals very number orientated. If it's the emotion, start to make those goals for yourself based on, I want to feel this way.
Yeah.
And then if you love the plan, try and build a plan for yourself. Even if it's not perfect, like I said before, it's the best plan is the one you'll do.
Right.
So don't worry too much about, is it a perfect plan? Just map one out.
Yeah.
And go with it. It's going to change. It always does, even on a coach's end. I create a program for everybody. I don't know if it's ever lasted 2 weeks. It's just, it's constantly evolving and changing based on what you're seeing. So it's the same thing when you're trying to make your own.
Yeah. I think that's huge. So start with the plan, and then eventually it'll navigate and the path will reveal itself.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Another one I think is important is to introduce different things, like introduce emotion to it, introduce path oriented, introduce logic into it. Because there's some things for me that I never thought I'd like endurance.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I endurance.
Same with endurance.
Yeah, you tell me endurance 5 years ago. No, not even 2 years ago. I was like, you are gonna love endurance level type of workouts. It is gonna be the best part of your day. I'd be like, bro, who are you? You don't even know me, right? So I think it's important to introduce not only other modalities like the different types of people, but also important to test out different movements for the person. Whether it's, hey, try Zumba. Hey, let's go do yoga. Hey, go. Let's lift heavy. You know, I think it's important to get as many of those experiences as you possibly can, because I see oftentimes that people think that fitness needs to be painful.
Yeah.
But what if fitness is exciting? What if it's the best thing that you look forward to do? Right? And you just don't know what that path is yet. So what are
I'll tell you something funny, and this is just an example, is I had this great idea 2 years ago where I think I heard it on a podcast too, where it was, every month I'm going to try something new. Just one thing physical. I'm going to try something new. So whether it's like, Zumba is just always a funny word to say when you talk about different fitness. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I just started this plan. First thing I did, I said, I'm going to try a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class.
Right.
I showed up one day and I never left. I never tried anything new after that.
Yeah.
Because I found it. Literally the first thing I did, I found it. Maybe I took it and I was like, I hate this, and I tried something new. All right, I'm going to go for a run. Oh, God, I hate running. I'm going to try something else. So it's like, it's just very hard to get to that point where you're willing to try different things.
Yes.
Because everyone has that idea, and I've heard this so many. I mean, when I talk to everyone about jiu-jitsu, but
Yeah.
I always hear I'm not in good enough shape to do my first class.
Yeah.
And that prevents them from ever trying.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of kind of like barriers that people think they can't try new things until they're in better shape. And I can't go for a run until I lose 20 pounds. And then they never lose 20 pounds and never go for a run.
Yeah.
So I think it's that idea of just trying just to think about where you are and what you're capable of. And then that'll lead to one thing. That'll lead to another thing. And you mentioned endurance. Like I didn't run my first mile until I was 25 years old.
That's crazy.
I couldn't run a mile as a kid.
Yeah.
I'd walk it in gym class.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. And I played football and we never ran long distance, but 25 years old, I ran my first mile, and it was actually in Murph. When I ran my first mile, I ran 2 miles because it was Murph.
Yeah.
And I almost died, but it was finally when I did it, it was the like, oh wow, I can run. Then it led me to like, all right, let's see how far I can push it. So I think people just need that kind of like 1 foot in the door.
Yeah.
Just to have enough confidence that they can do something. So that's why, like, as a trainer, if someone comes in and they're very far, 40 pounds overweight, they haven't worked out in 10 years, you start very, very slow, and then you just see what's coming next. Right. Instead of just being like, all right, I can't run a mile right now, but I want to run a marathon. It's never going to work that way. So as long as you just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if it's just 10,000 steps a day, that's your goal. That's your workout. All of a sudden, you start to lose a little bit of weight, and then those steps might turn into a jog. Yeah. And then that jog might turn into a run. And then I'm going to do a 5K. Yeah. All of a sudden, I could do a half marathon. Right. So it's just some people might not even, at the beginning, day one, it's not even a question. I'm never going to be a runner. Yeah. I'm never going to like endurance. And all of a sudden, it's one thing leads to the next. And all of a sudden, you kind of find that thing.
And then you become a monster. And you're like, you're weird. Should I do that? I was like, no.
Yeah,
don't do the burpees like me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I truly
not
like.
Recommended. For
I truly like this. Yeah. Like, it's not something that I would recommend my clients to do. While you can join me in it and experience it for the first time, I have no expectation that you are going to do something that I want to do.
Right. So I guess it's just being open-minded. And I think that took me, my journey probably would have been a lot shorter if I was a little bit more open-minded. I thought, when I first lost some weight, this is the only way to do it. This is the only diet that works. This is the only thing, because it was so personal. Yeah. Once you start letting go a little bit and trying different things, you have no idea what you're going to like.
Yeah. There's so many. Yeah. And I think that's like the biggest thing that I notice a lot of times why people don't even begin is because they want to find that perfect one. They want to find that perfect date. I was like, bro, there's multiple people for you. Yeah. If you're on the relationship side, just because one thing didn't work out, I'm going to tell you there's another person that truly loves you for who you are. Right. And it's the same with fitness, right? Orange Theory didn't work out for you. Maybe F45 will. If F45 didn't work out for you, maybe CrossFit will.
And I think maybe the letting go of because my jiu-jitsu story was different. Day one, I fell in love. Yeah. You might not fall in love with it. Yeah. Day one. It's not going to be this like, I go for my first run and, oh man, this is what I was meant to do. It's like, you might do a couple of laps in a workout and you hate that part. And then all of a sudden maybe that builds to it. So I think if people, they shouldn't, if they try something, don't write it off on day one. Because you're probably not going to fall in love with it on day one. Yeah. Maybe you do, but most likely you won't.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. So you're familiar with the Murphs. Yeah. Like I've been doing a lot of them.
I think you've done a couple.
Yeah. So I did not know. My favorite part of that workout became the runs. Mm-hmm. I hated it. I was like, I can't wait to get to the pull-ups, the push-ups, the squats. The most exciting parts in that journey as I reflect back was the runs. And primarily because I got into a state of just progress, a state of actually learning and thinking. Like you could actually, I got reconnected with myself in those runs.
On the runs, yeah.
And I started to understand that maybe that was what was called runner's high. So now in moments where I need to reflect and I need to think, guess what? I just run.
You go for a run. Yeah.
And it's like, it's so peaceful. And I could tap into that all the time now. And it didn't happen. I hate to say it, but it didn't happen for a whole year.
Yeah. Imagine day one.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you got some stuff on your mind. Go for
Yeah.
a run and think about it. You'd have been like, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
1 year. Here's when it actually really truly happened. After day 1,010, when I stopped running. And I started to recognize, why is my mind racing? Right? Like, what is happening? Why am I so anxious? I can't even process any of my thoughts. And I started to realize that what allowed me to stay in the moment and stay at peace was those runs. So now I include it. Like, you saw me run. I was like, okay, dude,
Yeah.
it's like, what, you're not doing burpees? I was
Right,
like, bro,
remember
I gotta.
when we said before that if you told someone the plan,
Yeah.
imagine telling someone you're not going to know you like running until day 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And sometimes it requires you to leave it
Yeah.
to really be grateful for it.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is, excuse me, is you can go in and out of things.
Yeah.
It's not, like I said, like day one, you try running, you write it off for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you can go in and out of things. And I find myself doing that too.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm really into this right now.
Right.
This is not my fitness identity for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But this is just fun right now. And it's
Yeah.
going to maybe get boring and I'll come back to it later.
Yeah.
It's like with running, I got into it for a while because I could. But, and then, in Vegas with the weather is like, I feel like I start running every spring. It's super fun because it's nice out. And by the time the summer comes, I don't want to run anymore, but I'll probably do it next spring.
Yeah.
And you just come back to it.
Yeah.
Just don't write off anything.
I think that's huge. Like, people think they have to be so fixated. Like, this is it. I've had so many clients that would leave in personal training and they would go into something and they would come back.
Yeah.
And they just do this forever. And I'm like, dude, I'm okay with it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, yeah. Like,
yeah, I think a lot of people learned about, like, instead of making goals is like, you want to find your identity. And then like the identity goals change you.
Yeah.
But like, I think people get a little too obsessed with like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm a trail runner.
The joke, like the CrossFitter. Like,
Yeah, this
how
is
do you
all
know
me.
someone does CrossFit? Just
talk
be in
about
a
it all
room
the
with
time.
them for
Yeah.
5 minutes, like a joke like that. But it's like, yes, you can find your identity. Like with jujitsu, I think I found it.
Yeah.
But with other aspects of fitness, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's just like that's a personality type, I think.
It is.
You can
yeah.
find one thing and you can do it for the rest of your life. Or you can just go in and out of what's your identity at the moment.
Exactly.
And it gets kind of fun that way.
Yeah. I think having that identity, the advantage to that is you're hyper focused, right? And it makes it really easy to follow. I only do this thing, right? I lift weights, I run, I do that, right? The disadvantage to condensing yourself into one identity is you don't get to see the other benefits of other modalities.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, yoga. For me,
Oh, man.
yoga has been like, even 5 minutes of it had massive impacts on my run, has massive impacts in my mind.
You told if you told old meathead Keith to do yoga, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, it was just that open-mindedness that brings you into something, and then you're like, wow, like yoga really helps me do what I truly enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do yoga.
Yeah.
Like, and then another aspect of it too is you find so many different communities, and community is so important. So if you're trying to make a weight loss plan on your own, you can do it on your own. There's people. I did it on my own, but I kind of weaved in and out of different communities.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important too. So when you open up to different things, is like the yoga community is great.
Yeah.
You go and you drop into a CrossFit, like everyone's a community.
Yeah.
Like, jiu-jitsu, I got my community. And it's just, I think it keeps things interesting because you're involved with so many different communities that love that one thing. And when you love that one thing, you could be a part of that community, and then you could kind of pop in and out whenever it is that you want.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Because they all have their personalities.
Yeah.
Right. I think, and there's advantages to both. Like, if you wanted to feel a little bit more peaceful and more grounded and just like relax, like, I think going into a yoga studio would be perfect for you.
Yeah.
right? If you wanted
The
to,
stressed out person at work.
yeah,
Because, you know, I tell a couple of my people that are very stressed is like, sometimes you come in, you're super stressed, doing a really hard workout is just going to get more stressful sometimes.
yeah,
So finding a yoga where you actually are like, or a run, if you end
right,
up running, and you could find ways where like exercise can actually be the de-stressor rather than adding more.
100%.
So finding different things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Not not everything in your weight loss journey has to be stressful.
Mm-hmm.
While I do love stress, I've liked to find stress that it becomes a de-stress moment. So the stress things that I do physically can be a de-stress moment for me,
Yeah.
right?
It takes a while to get there.
Yeah, and
Some people don't get there for a while.
yeah,
And workout is a hassle. And then like the run, like all of a sudden something that you thought you hate, you realize that it was actually
a de-stressor,
Yeah.
which is huge.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different. Again, it requires you to be open-minded, try different things. So yoga, if you like, if you're always stressed, I think that's important.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's other communities where it's like very performance oriented, percentages,
Yeah.
maxes, PRs. Like maybe you should go into a barbell club
Yeah.
where they're very
And again,
numbers oriented.
You never know. Yeah.
You never know. Like, okay, maybe that's what I need right now. I'm in a season of growth. Let's do that. Right? Or maybe you're in the season of feels. You're like, dude, I just want to be in the present. I've been grinding really hard on my career, my business, my relationship. I just want to I want to be good again.
Mm-hmm.
Find a community where it's like, that's what they want to do. Right? And there's trainers that are like that too. In a modality of fitness, there's trainers that are more like, oh, this guy just wants to enjoy the moment. Tap into that instructor. Or there might be an instructor that's like growth oriented and you want to be in that. So inside the modalities of yoga, Orange Theory, CrossFit, there's also those types of coaches, which is crazy to even think of, right?
Yeah, it's like you can find different personalities within the communities.
Yeah, I love it. And here's what you do really well. You do all three with your clients.
Yeah. I try and do that. And again, it goes back to that, like, I used to have an ego about what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And now, like, I could care less what somebody wants to do.
Yeah.
As long as it's moving the needle and just putting them a little bit closer to their goal. Yeah. In the back of my head, maybe it's nothing I would do, but if they want to do it, then go for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think, you know, sometimes it's like you're giving people choices, but it doesn't matter what the choice is because the end goal is the same.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about this when I was a teacher, you know, there's this technique in teaching where like you present a kid with two different options, mm-hmm. and it's you want them to do either one, but just because they feel like they have the choice, they have the autonomy. It's like they will do it because they chose it. Yeah. So I think that becomes a part of it when somebody is, you know, talking about a diet or a workout that they want to do, and in your head it's probably not what you would recommend, but you see they're excited about it. Yeah, go for it because it's gonna work.
Yeah, I see you do that in your sessions. Mm-hmm. It's not very dictatorial. I mean, there's some moments where you're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah. But of course, it's you got to have a little structure in there, but it's like if you realize that, you know, you can accomplish. The modality doesn't matter. If someone needs to improve their endurance a little bit, maybe I come in, it's like, hey, you get to choose today. Yeah. Is it the bike or the rower? Yeah. I could care less which one they use. But I'm going to choose the rower. Okay, you're going to be so much more motivated because you chose. Yeah. Instead of being like, no, the bike is better. It'll get your endurance up better. We're doing the bike today. Yeah. And then it feels like one of these like forced things. But then weirdly enough, there's people that want to be told what to do. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like, we're doing the bike today.
Yeah, it's going to be
and I think it's on us or on you to figure out what you like.
Yeah. And what they need at the moment.
And what you need at the moment. And just never being scared to change.
Like on the fly.
On the fly, yeah.
Yeah, in my sessions, oftentimes I'll ask them if they can do one more round. You know, and I'll kind of just be like, hey, you think you could do one more round? Yeah. And I just I use that question to prompt what's going to happen next.
It's
and how
very
I'm gonna-
rare the answer is no.
Yeah, yeah. It's very rare the answer is no, or they're like, I think I can. I'm gonna coach that person differently.
Yeah.
And then this person's like nodding their head, like, dude, no, I'm gonna do 1 plus like 4 more reps.
Yeah.
And
If the answer is no, then it's back to the drawing board as a
Yeah.
coach. Like, all
He's
right,
like,
what
oh,
did I
this-
do?
oh,
I
he
pushed
doesn't-
them way too hard today.
or he doesn't like this movement,
Yeah.
right? Or he doesn't like this modality. Maybe I need to go back into linear programming and bodybuilding, right? Or maybe more body weight oriented exercises. I think those are all asking that question on the last few reps is really critical for me to understand how I'm going to navigate the programming moving forward. So I think clients can do this on their own as well, right? What's happening at the last 20%? Because the last 20% of the exercise is when the true version of you come out, right? It's like when I'm doing those runs, what's my narrative on the last 20? Hate this, or like, dude, this is fun. Like, I can do one more round. I'm going to do another 20 minutes. Like, what is happening on that back half of your workout? You should, I think it's also advantageous to write what you're saying, because I think it's going to give you a perspective of what the path is going to look like for your weight loss journey.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And then you could tap into what we talked about before. It's like if you're the plan person, it's like, well, I planned I was going to do another round, so I'm going to do another round.
Yeah.
If you're the emotional person, it's how much better will I feel about myself if I finish this round?
Yeah.
And then the number is, if you're obsessed with the scale, it's like, all right, if I do one more round, I'm closer to my goal.
Yeah.
And just, again, going back to kind of who you are and how you think about things, if you're doing it on your own. Because if you don't have that coach that asks, can you do one more round? You got to be your own coach in that scenario. You got to find a way to figure out if you can do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the advantage of having a trainer is. They start to borrow narratives of a person that's already fit, right? If they just had your mindset and then my mindset and we just instilled it to them, they'll have a different body just in general.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest, if you were to ask me to do this all over again, I'm going to tell you, heck no. I would have hired a trainer way faster. And the reason for that is because I battled a lot of my own internal narratives of what injuries were like.
Right.
Remember when you had that pec tear?
Yeah.
My first interaction was like, heck yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget that, actually. That really changed a lot for me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Explain why that
I remember you saying that, and I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
But it was, and I remember exactly what you said. You said, wow, you're going to be a huge inspiration when you get back.
Yeah.
And that changed everything.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this sucks. There's no way this doesn't suck. My plan is, all three are gone. My plan is ruined. My emotions are bad.
Yeah.
And all the numbers and goals I have you could throw all those out the window.
Right.
And then it was just like, okay, I've done something cool before, which is I lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, this is just one more thing. I'm going to be able to say I had a pretty devastating injury.
Yeah.
And I went right back. I didn't fall off.
Yeah.
And I started reframing it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is all right. Now I'm going to be an inspiration. I kind of, it sounds weird to say. I look at myself like an inspiration to people that need to lose a lot of weight because I've been there. But now I can relate to even more people. The person that comes in and says, I gained 40 pounds because I blew out my knee.
Yeah.
It's okay. I've been there.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at it like that. And that helped.
It's
that
good.
helped everything.
And there's another residual effect to this that we might not quite see. But you training your clients on a sling and you're like walking around and you're training as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're trying to train yourself.
Yeah, I did three limb workout for a while.
You get a client that comes in with like a sprained knee or a
Yeah.
sprained ankle or like a tight elbow. Their response to you is always different now. They're like, dude, this guy was working through a tear and I'm over here like, I'm going to cancel because my knees are sore. Right? I see that and that's why I was so excited, because you training through that, every one of your clients, they're not even going to think. They're like, oh, Keith did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in and
I didn't think
he
of it
knows
like
what
that
to do.
at the beginning, but it was definitely a game changer.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen your boy Scotty come in with injuries.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it's probably because you decided to still train and overcome that, because of those things. And he might not even think of it, but he saw it, right? I saw it. And that's why I'm excited anytime a trainer gets injured, because it's a pivotal moment where they can have a massive impact. They can use this circumstance to be like, this is dangerous, or they can use this circumstance and be like, this is the next level for you to grow. And every injury, that's why I'm excited, because every injury that I've had made me fitter.
Yeah, that's a crazy way to look at it.
I'm crazy fit.
Real. It's real. Yeah.
So it's like, but it's behind a lot of those injuries. 6-month back tweaks, torn hamstrings, torn biceps, cramp galore. Like those things are like, those are the moments where I understood nutrition. Those are the moments where I understood corrective exercise. Those were the moments where I started to understand the OPT model, the stability exercises. Like I would have never even cared if I never got injured. You see what I mean? So there are going to be moments in your weight loss journey where you're going to have those moments where you think something is wrong. And when you start having a trainer that's been in those situations where you think everything's going to go apart, man, I would have wished someone would have been like, Royce, I'm so excited that you blew out both of your hamstrings. Yeah. Right? Because it took me years to be able to be like, oh, this is a good thing. It would have been nice if someone was like, I'm so excited for you, because I think my progress would have been. Yeah. It's not I know it would have been.
Yeah, definitely. Any setback too, not just injuries.
Yeah.
Any setback can be reframed.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like, I want them to grasp that. And if you might actually be experiencing that at that moment right now, I'm going to tell you what you're having is actually, you're in the right path. If you're not getting injured and you're not like taking your body to the next level, you might not be making as much progress as you think you are. Right? So, I mean, don't go crazy. Yeah. Like I still have a path.
Trying to injure yourself.
I'm not like purposely trying to injure myself.
Just know things happen. Yeah.
But it's going to reveal to you what your next step is. A path of being fit is having these plateaus. A path of being fit is seeing injuries happen throughout your journey. A path of being fit is also going to have situations in your life where things are not going to come into place. It doesn't seem like it fits. There's never a right opportunity or right time. It's in those moments where the person becomes fitter and healthier and continually lose weight.
And then there's always something to focus on more when you have a setback.
Yeah.
Like I tore my pec. It was, okay, it seems like my mobility was lacking. How can I work on that? Yeah. I'm not as active anymore because I'm hurt. How can I make my nutrition better?
Yeah.
And just being able to kind of, okay, yes, this sucks, but what else can I improve so that when I'm not injured anymore, now I'm even better because I'm focusing on the things that I can control.
That's so good. Yeah. Okay. We touched up on a lot of things. Very meta, not like you should do 3 sets of 10. Yeah. Like this is more
I think,
mindset.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part there.
Yeah.
Is, of course, the plan says you should do 3 sets of 10, but I think if people focus on that too much, and these things that we talked about happen, it can throw you off too easily.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so someone is listening to this right now. They're at the very beginning stages of which program should I do? If you can sum up some of the first few things that you would do, like you're speaking to yourself 2-3 years before, right? What would you, like, just a little checklist for yourself? Like these are the 3 things or 4 things or whatever, how many things?
Yeah, I think if you look at kind of like the three main components, which is exercise, diet, and then I think like stress and sleep kind of go hand in hand, is just think of where you're going to start. Doesn't matter what it ends up being. It's just how can you start something in all 3 of those.
Okay.
Even if it's
one thing.
just one thing. Even if it's just I'm so out of shape that just walking is what I need to start with.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go to the gym. I used to lift weights, in high school. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start lifting.
Yeah.
If it's nutrition, it's, one time I had success eating like this. Let me try and start there.
Right.
And then with stress and sleep I think that is the hardest one.
Yeah.
That could be kind of like the last stone to overturn.
It was the last one for me too.
Yeah, I think it is for most people. But you'll start to see some pretty amazing carryover from the exercising and the diet with the stress and the sleep.
Yeah.
A lot of people, talk about, I can't go to sleep at night. And it's like, well, because you're not very active.
Right.
Go do a hard workout and see if you fall asleep better.
And it typically does. Yeah.
And usually it does. And then go find something exercise-wise that's a stress reliever. And then all of a sudden your stress at work is a little bit more down.
Yeah.
You start to get more confidence. You start to feel better, look better, and all of a sudden that carries over into work, and now your work stress is down.
Yeah.
So I think that one should be the last one.
Yeah.
Or normally it's the last one, but as long as you can start to do something active, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Something to make your diet a little bit better, even if it's just starting something as simple as like, I'm going to just start drinking more water.
Yeah. No sodas anymore.
Yeah. Just something very, very simple. I think with diet, with exercise, and especially diet, people try and do too much at once. I'm going to go from eating like this to buying this, program and trying to eat like a bodybuilder does.
Yeah.
That's too hard to jump into.
Yeah.
Same thing with exercise. It's like, I haven't worked out in 5 years. I'm going to do this Olympic level sprint program. You're like, all right.
6 times a week.
Yeah. It's like, just start. Start something. Doesn't matter what it is, because at the end of the day, everyone online and things can argue about what's right and what's wrong. It's like, everything works. You just have to find out what's right for you.
I'm pro experiment. I love that.
Everything. So start somewhere. Write it down. This is what I'm going to do. Don't overcommit. If you're the type of person that likes to overcommit and that'll work, then sure, overcommit. Yeah. But just start somewhere that seems manageable and enjoyable, and then see where it takes you.
That's so good. I love that. I definitely agree with, out of those 3 pillars, just pick one tool. Just one. That works. Yeah. It's like the water thing. Just replace sodas. Boom. That's a massive win. Sometimes people don't understand. Just that little habit can create a massive impact over a year.
And even that might be a lot for someone. Like, oh, I hate water, and like this is not what I would, the best advice. But like, what if you just went from soda to diet soda?
There you go.
Like, that could be a huge change. It's a very small change that seems manageable to you. Yeah. And I think it shouldn't come from anyone else but yourself.
I love that.
And start small. Yes. And it will snowball, avalanche into whatever crazy stuff me and you like to do these days. Maybe it gets there, but it started very, very small.
I like it.
It started, with me, 3 sets of 10 following a bodybuilding.com workout. Yeah. That I wasn't even doing very well. But it was like, that was my foot. That was my foot in the door. Find some, even if it's a strange diet, the fad diet, just start it. See how it goes.
I love it. So the only thing I want to add to that is just add time. Yeah. Add time, add consistency to one of those things, and then measure it. And then just experience it, right? So, guys, if you guys like this episode, you want to see more of it, there's going to be some videos probably around me. Click on one of those things. Keith, where can they find you? I know you're on social and you're on the other side of town as well. Where can they find you? I'm
on the other side of town. I got to get my social game up. I think this inspired me to get my social game up. But I think kind of my upbringing in this like area was never too much about worrying about social media and followers and posting the journey. And I think just one more thing to add there is like that almost gave me like a weird satisfaction where like I wasn't the type of person to post my journey. I just did it. Yeah. And then it was almost cooler to not post what I do every day, and then someone sees me and they haven't seen in a long time. Right. Like, so not much on social media because I just kind of got into that. So there's one more thing there. Like, you don't have to post everything you do if you don't want to. If it helps keep you accountable, sure. Yeah. But I think that's another thing that kind of people fall into of this just like weird social media trap. Yeah. Where it's sometimes, you just do it. You don't have to let anyone know. Yeah. Because that could let you down too. Yeah. So just try things on your own, move in silence.
I love that.
And then of course, if you get enough confidence, you want to start using social media more about your journey or get into fitness or become a trainer like I did, then you could do it. But
but then you're busy already. You're like, exactly. So I like how you brought that up. Just like it's just like everything else, experiment with everything. And just because some people do it that way doesn't mean you have to do it this way. Keith is a busy trainer and he's not active on socials, guys, right? So you can have massive progress in your health, in your weight loss without being on social.
Yeah.
So don't be obligated to post it on there for your journey, right?
Exactly.
So that's
But
another.
there's nothing wrong if you
nothing wrong, because it holds them. Sometimes it holds them accountable. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah. So don't
Right?
feel obligated to show off
Yeah,
your success.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, dude, thanks for coming, man. We'll get you on again
All right.
for sure.
Sounds great. Thank
Peace.
you.